Okay, welcome to the final round. I'm the barrier between the beer outside and now, right? So my name is Dirk, special last name. I'm a solution architect with Ivan for almost 1.5 months right now. I have almost 2 decades of database stuff on my shoulders, starting as a DBA, then being a trainer and consultant at Trivadis, shout out who knows. And later I switched a little bit to pre-sales, to being a sales engineer. Now it's a solution architect. It's a lot of names, but I'm always doing database technology. And with Ivan, a little bit Kafka, ClickHouse, and so on. But starting with Oracle, later with Postgres, with some transition time in between. That is my career. I have some private stuff. I have stolen the junior DBI stuff from Martin, by the way. And yeah, if you want to have an icebreaker for later for the beers, I will try to hurry up a bit. One special thing, I'm also the organizer of the Postgres user group in North Rhine-Westphalia. If some German people are around, just connect over Meetup and be aware that there will be some other events in the next month or years or whatever. So, short disclaimer, not a safe harbor statement. I'm using the disclaimer, right? This talk was given to several audiences, only Oracle people, only Postgres people. No, this day is special, right? So, hands up, who is Team Postgres? And who is Team Oracle? Oh, it's more 50-50 than I accept. Okay, interesting. I was available in both worlds, so I have a lot of experience in both worlds. So that is, I try to mix it up a bit. So it's my honest opinion. I'm always open for discussions, but maybe it's still valuable for you all. The motivation of this talk was, in the past, I did a talk about performance analysis in Postgres. I gave this talk annoyingly often, so I don't put it on the call for papers anymore. And you can see some YouTube videos about this. You will get the slides later. You can scan the link then. And that was about more generic Postgres performance analysis. And there were a lot of things, a lot of feedback of this talk, and many people asked me about my Oracle past, and because I was really explaining it on a view from a former Postgres Oracle DBA. So that was recognized, and there was always the question about this last part of this talk, and that is basically what I'm trying to do here. It's basically a spin-off of this talk. That is why some slides have this recap on the header. And yeah, so both words. Like the title of the talk is the road to performance and tuning pack in Postgres, right? First of all, I want to explain. Most of you knows what is the Oracle approach in performance tuning, right? So the good thing is, maybe the good thing, I don't know. Oracle is collecting almost everything by default, right? So you have all the performance data for a particular time, sometimes sampled, and you have it available. So that is a good thing, right? So, and you can querying it, you can have a look in this, but most of the time you jump into a situation where you reach out an area in the views which belongs to an option pack from Oracle. So which is called the Diagnostic and Tuning Pack. Only available for the Enterprise Edition and not that cheap, right? But then you get the full bunch of toolings, what you need, and with what every Oracle DBI is happy with, right? So what is a diagnostic pack? There's a diagnostic pack and a tuning pack. I don't know if you can purchase this separately, but actually the diagnostic pack is what we see here, the database diagnostic monitor, ADDM, the workload repository, which is most famous, ALS, the special data dictionary views, which you can now officially query, right? If you're not licensed it, you're not allowed to, right? And there's also this tuning pack, right? This is the second part, but I've never seen some separately, right? So there's the advisors, the SQL monitoring, and some other views again. So basically, that is what you get when you are. Sorry, yes?
You can have diagnostic pack as a single thing, But when you want tuning pack, you have to have diagnostic
Yeah,
and tuning.
requires diagnostic pack. That's correct then, no? Right, yeah, okay. But does anyone actually purchase only one of the? Yeah, is it the thing? Okay, I've never seen this. So it was always like you have both. So, and yeah, and with this you have everything you need, every Oracle DBA is happy with, right? So Postgres is way different. Postgres does, all the information what you actually, to be honest, need for investigating performance issues are there for now, right? So if you are lucky and can have a look right now to an issue, then you're fine. But that's never the case, right? So you have the several sources, right? You can see the parameters, the sizing. You have a lot of views which you can query. You can see, you can create explain plans, all this kind of stuff, right? But the main challenge is how to handle this information, how to keep that information, right? So, and collect it for later use, or for if you get a call from the middle of the night. Yesterday it was slow in a noon time, and now please investigate, right? That is kind of a former issue I had. So now, if you ask Postgres people, right, they are always mentioning things like this. No, that is a recap. Postgres logging is really awesome. I think it's way better than this alert logs thing from Oracle. But of course, it's still logging. You can easily activate everything, and you will have a lot of information which is in fact useful for performance analysis and tuning. But then you have pretty large log files, right? And you have to handle this, and it's getting a lot of disk space in use. And that is maybe for a particular investigation, you can activate it, and then you deactivate it again. That makes sense maybe, but it's not kind of the overall running solution which let an Oracle DBA sleep well, right? So just an example, you can activate almost everything, even with some thresholds and so on. That's really huge thing. And you have also tools like, and that is also a thing when you are talking to real, also not real, only Postgres people, we have this PG Badger tool, which creates nice little reports, always also looking like AWR, right? But again, all this information, the reports are pretty nice. That is really useful. But again, this information is coming out of the log files. Then you need to have this incredible large log files to get this information, this report. So that is maybe a particular solution, but not the I just keep it activated all the time thing. So, but it's at least it's in the right direction. So monitoring, that's the second thing Postgres people are telling you. You can start a monitoring thing. So just use any Grafana dashboard whatsoever. But from my personal opinion, monitoring is necessary, of course, right? But it just tells me that something is slow. But if I now have to investigate what exactly, then I need to dig deeper. And then monitoring is maybe gives me some hints, but I need additional tooling. Then I go back to things like the Diagnostic and Tuning Pack, right? So it makes sense, but again, you need more insights, and that is not the solution for this. So that is the most common argument if you're discussing these topics with hardliner Postgres people, right? So, and of course, this talk is called Diagnostic and Tuning Pack and not Enterprise Manager whatsoever, right? So that's the thing. So now we have the problem. Oracle, of course, everything in it, we are happy, right? Postgres, nothing in it out of the box. But now we have to compare a little bit the mindsets of Postgres and Oracle, right? So we have, at the end, both systems are creating a good database atmosphere. You can, if you are just looking, need a relational database with the relevant features, both are doing a good job, right? Out of the box. So at the end, but now with Oracle and Postgres in comparison, there are two different mindsets. So why is that? Why is Postgres out of the box so small, so less featured, and Oracle so big? One thing is this. Compare it, right? It is just, if you install Postgres, the software binary is 50 megabytes. One just default database around 40 something, right? Megabyte. On the other hand, that is 21.5. Don't ask me why I have this. It's the Oracle Home from Enterprise Edition is 9 gigabytes. Of course, you have everything in it, but it's still a trillion more than Postgres out of the box, right? And to be honest, all extensions I'm showing you today are included in this 50 megabytes. So even then, right, small. And also default databases, right? you know, maybe people are saying like, okay, today storage is not a problem anymore, but ask that people are working with a lot of containers, right? So that could be a pain in the ass. So that is one reason. So the other reason is, and this morning the keynote was like Postgres expertise, new DBAs. Oracle is way more complicated, however, than Postgres. Right? Postgres is, when you're just starting an instance, is about, let's say, less than 10 backend processes. Of course, with every client connection, there's another process, but at the end, that is the default. In Oracle, you have then this, right? Okay. Old picture, but I always like to show this. I really want to have an actual version of this picture. But to be honest, right, guess how many different backend processes does Oracle 21.5 has? 50? Actually, it's 524, right? But okay, to be honest, if you are running an usual instance, it's about 73. You know, that was my actual test system. It was just two PDBs whatsoever. But it is impressive, right? And again, you know, if you don't have any particular feature requests like this tuning part or any fancy stuff, you know, just starting up a database, running queries, again, both are doing the same. Quite good, right? Just think about this. Okay. So Postgres is small, and Postgres has this mindset to get tailored as you need. So at the end, it's starting like a few megabytes, and then you are selecting your toolings, your extensions of your choice. That is maybe a benefit, but also a challenge. Again, this keynote this morning was pretty interesting about the selection of extensions. Of course, this is a challenge, but you know there are plenty of well-established ones which will fit all your needs. On Oracle, of course, you know, from the beginning is your happy place, right? If you install it, you have everything available. Even there's a SQL developer somewhere hidden in the home, right? So, and you can do everything. And there's a lot of things about, I know, compatibility, a lot of languages in Oracle, even in Postgres as well, but I think not that much like in Oracle, to be fair, right? But again, ridiculously huge disk-based usage, right? I think I still don't see the reason why you need really 9 gigabytes of Oracle Home. But, you know, they are working on it. I heard that they are slipstreaming it a bit. And in Oracle, you have less available alternatives to everything, right? Backup tuning, performance tuning, whatsoever. So you're using actually this, and you are relying on this. In Postgres, at least you have a choice. You can see maybe if you find this solution better than the other. So that, you know, pros and cons. So what is the comfort zone of an Oracle DBA? That is the motivation of this talk, right? So at the end, we have seen the whole tools, right? ADDM, the advisors. Who is actually using all these tuning advisors something before autonomous databases, right? Anyone using this? No, right? You know, I asked this question a lot. So at the end, what Oracle DBAs mostly cares is Ash and AWR. That are the things what you need, right? So maybe there are special cases, but I would say more than 95% are happy with this both, right? At least it was my past like this, and I gave at Trivades has given a training or a Postgres for Oracle DBAs, and it was always, you know, that is missing. So that is my actually tooling, you know, that's my opinion. There are maybe more extensions or more possible ways to do this. But for me, personally, that is the solution for both, you know, the alternative extension for both solutions right here. So for Ash, it's a combination of those. You don't need all of those. Maybe, for instance, if most of you people knows pgstat statements. pgstat monitor is a very good alternative based on pgstat statements. So it will at least give you some timing in this whole view. That is a useful thing, but it's not part of this talk, but because it's not related to PG Profile, which is basically my alternative of choice for AWR. Not the same, but it's an alternative, right? So just some recaps. pgstat statements is just the missing piece of collecting the workload in a matter of aggregated statements in one view. So at the end, you can see what kind of statements, how often, how long they took, average length of the statements, all this kind of stuff, and you see it in a historical way. That is basically a ring buffer, so you can define, show me the, or just keep the last 5K statements, right? You can increase it as you wish, right? So that is one solution. And then you have a lot of information. This information can, it's just an example, but which I have stolen from Hans from Cybertech. He's always making this statement in the first time when he just investigating on a database. Give me the statement which bothers the most at the moment, right? Easy. It's really helpful. And then you can add some more information. Again, it's a recap about more the disk usage, everything what's related to the storage. That is basically an addition to pgstat statements if you need more information based on this. So as working at Ivan as a cloud provider, it's not that relevant, right? Because people cannot change anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if you need this, that is, and even pgstat statement and pgstat car cache is available in contrib. So the default selection of Postgres extension. So at least those are mostly available when you're making a proper default installation or using a cloud vendor of choice. But what's missing? What's missing? What is the most beloved things by Oracle DBAs when they're investigating performance problem? No. Wait events. So also Postgres has wait events. Interesting is that Postgres DBAs are not really caring about wait events so much as Oracle people do. So, but there's also an extension. Unluckily, not available in the contrib, but at least in the regular repository. So if you have installed Postgres from any repository, this is also available. And then you have also the possibility to collect in a similar way, like pgstat statements doing, also with a ring buffer, right? You can collect wait events as well. And then you can just query per statement, per session, in a time frame. You can see, if you have done any investigation with Oracle or Postgres, you will feel somehow familiar with wait events, right? But at least at this point, my attendees of my course will start to cry. That is what I need, So, and now we have a problem, right? We have several extensions with ring buffers and so on, collecting data asynchronously, right? So, and now we have to put everything together, kind of organized, right? I don't want to have this view and having this view for wait events and different ring buffer sizes. So maybe all this information is here available, but here it's running out already. I don't know, right? So we need something like AWR, right? So a repository of all this information being able to get sampled and so on. So that is actually what the next step is. And I'm pretty fast. That's good. Maybe can do a demo then. So yeah, okay, that is basically PG Profile. PG Profile is just one extension, what I used a lot in the past, and unfortunately not now, because Ivan does not have it in its offering yet, but at least I can still recommend it, right? So what does what does PG Profile do? It's basically the same approach like AWR. So you're collecting all the data, you can create snapshots or samples. I will totally mix up samples and snapshots all the time right now. So, but you know what I mean. And then you can create nice little reports, like AWR reports, the fancy websites, what you are used to, right? So that is basically the thing. And all the information the PG Profile is collecting is based on these extensions which I mentioned before, except pgstat monitor, right? That is a different thing. But statements, wait events, car cache, and everything what Postgres is providing out of the box. So it will create kind of a repository database. So at least at this point, it already makes sense because you have one large view or one set of views having all the data consolidated. So I have often used not the fancy reports. I just create in the views to get all information together. So I don't need a HTML file to have a look like, oh, cool, top 5 wait events, I'm ready. So so that is, even then it's already useful, but you also can create reports. I will show you later. So, and it doesn't matter if you have this extensions available or not. PG Profile will collect what is available, and you can create reports. So if you, for instance, the problem is PG weight sampling. the extension is maybe not available because it's not contrib and you're not allowed to install it. And then even then you can create PG profile reports out of this. Then you you just don't have the rate events in the report, right? So, and that is the most important thing. Who has heard the talk of Ludovico at the DOA conference? He mentioned it. It was kind of a, kind of a plagiate of IWR. The intention of this PG profile extension was not to have kind of, the Oracle has this nice little feature, we just make a copy that we have the same. No, it was an intention of a former Oracle DBA because there was a request that Oracle DBAs want to have a similar approach for Postgres. And it's, it's open source. So it's a different idea of implementing this, right? Not kind of making a stupid copy to just get people away from Oracle. It's more like there are Oracle DBAs now need to care about Postgres and they're feeling way better with this. And now we are implementing this. So that is what, open source, right? That is the mindset here. Important thing. So there's the GitHub page you can look around. The good thing is the whole extension is based on PGSQL. So it's easy to understand what's happening under the hood. So you don't need to have some look in the C code whatsoever, right? And latest release and everything, you can check it. And that is kind of a first picture of a report, but I will show you hopefully later a proper one because hard to read. But it's just if you just get the slides, then at least you have a sample here. So basically, that is the content, some overall statistics of the database, weight events, and then some statistics of every object, and then you are aware, like in AWR, you get several lists of top SQL statements. I will show you later, and then more important than someone would expect at the end, the cluster setting, so the parameters of this particular time. So that's also kind of useful. So if you were creating a report from yesterday noon, you can see the parameter settings. Maybe someone has changed in between whatsoever, right? So basically, PG profile is not complicated. So it just, creating a repository database, you can place it in any Postgres database of your choice. So if you are depending on a cloud vendor, you can still create a little Postgres instance somewhere on premises just for collecting the data. It won't affect the database as much, right? So and then you can use it. You have some packages for the reporting and so on. That's not that important. And again, it will take the information of the extensions being available. And at the end, you can just create the PG profile on the same instance. You can create it somewhere else and collecting from several databases. So at the end, a network connection has to be there, right? And then username, password, and so on. I will show you later. It's pretty straightforward. It's not very complicated. And the only requirement on the database where the repository is located, you have to install the extension dblink. That is basically responsible for the connection. And that only needs to be on the repository side, not on the databases where you're collecting from. And this is part of Contrib, so it's not a problem. So installation, again, it's available in most all repositories of Postgres. You can just get it from GitHub. I just did some listings here. I will hurry up because I want to have a beer. And then you can create, you must not, but it's recommended, you can create an own schema for PG profile. And then you create the extension PG profile based on the schema if you have a selected schema. And then you create the extension dblink and you're good to go. So basically, of course, if you're using these extensions, if you don't, and you are not being aware, you have to configure it on the configuration file before you're using PG profile. So if you don't have any PG stat statements and so on being available, it has to be written in the shared preload library, and that needs a restart of the instance, the cluster. That is a thing. It's always, and although also this was kind of mentioned a few times, why is PG stat statements not loaded per default? At least preloaded, not activated as an extension, right? So keep in mind, and you of course can activate some parameters for each extension as well, even for PG profile. I won't get all of those. They are pretty good documented on the GitHub side. So, but out of the box, it's working fine. So, and then you can create some maximum age of the samples and so on, you know, all this maintenance stuff, what you need to do. It's pretty straightforward. And you can cut the queries. You know, you see also the fully written queries. You can cut it if you want to get the reports smaller. Or, you know, you are very flexible in configuring some things about PG profile. And keep in mind, the ring buffer idea of wait events, wait sampling, car cache, and such statements needs to be at least so large that you are able to collect all this information. So if you're choosing a small size of the ring buffer and it's just overwriting all the time, that you don't see the whole fully picture of your database workload, then you have a problem. So that you have to investigate a bit and get it a specific size that you don't lose any information. If you really want to have all this information being available, right? So, and that you make for every extension, there are parameters which you can add to the Postgres configuration file. So, the whole handling I will show later as well is based on those functions, right? It's all PG, PL, SQL functions. You're creating a server, which is basically, that is one server I collect data from. Just, you know, it's an easy example. It's host, the database name, port, and of course you can add every parameter which you are used to on the connection string. So there's an easy example here, right? So without any password, because I just kept it open for having not a problem with the demo. And then you can drop the server again. You can enable or disable the server if you want to collect for some time. You can show the servers. I will show you a little bit on the demo in a few minutes. And then you can just, with this function, you can just take samples, you know, snapshot samples, whatsoever. And you can create a sample for everything. You can just create a sample for a specific server you have configured. So you are flexible as such. And then you can check if they are samples available, also like with the server name or not. Then you get everything. And you can also create so-called baselines. So if you, for instance, you have created some samples and you want to tag them with a name, for instance, you have done a benchmarking test, and then you say, okay, it was between this and this snapshot, you can give it basically a name with baselines, and then you will find it more easy later. So, and of course, that is one missing piece that is not happening automatically. So you can do manual snapshots. If you want to have it frequently, you need to go to a cron tab, right? So, and create it like this. So that is, of course, again, that's Postgres. I'm a database, everything else do somewhere else, right? Mindset, right? But you know, cron is not bad, right? So it's working fine. So it's easy to go with. There's an easy example, having a snapshot for everything every half an hour. Fine, right? So, and okay. Then you can create reports. You know, a standard report between two snapshots, as you are used to with AWR as well. And, which is kind of neat feature, you can also create differential reports. So you can basically say, give me the difference between this time window and this time window, and put everything in one report. And then I will show you an example. You have everything written in the same report, then you can easily compare. For instance, someone is calling you yesterday on noon, everything was slow. The day before on noon, everything was pretty fine. Then you're just creating a report of both situations. You get the parameters, you get the statements, you get the wait events, whatsoever. You can just easily compare what is the difference between the 2 days. Very, very useful. And then you can, that is a basic way to create the reports. You know, if you look at the slides or in the documentation, it's pretty straightforward. And that is the schema, but I will switch to showing you the report actually. Give it a little bit context here. So look here. Is it good to read? I guess so, right? So you see that is basically a Postgres 17, and here you see the extensions I have activated. So basically, car cache statement sampling are available. PL PGSQL is per default available, and then I have the extension PG profile activated and DB link. So that is the proper setup for having this on the repository database. Of course, on the database where you're collecting from, it's not necessary to activate DB link, for instance. or a PG profile or whatever. So, and then I already created some servers. You see here, select show servers. I have the local one is per default, and I just created the example, right? And I can also kind of create another server, paste, like give it, this is the same address, and give it just a different name. New. So I've created another server, and so here it is, right? So straightforward. That is basically enough. And now you can create or collect these samples, right? And you can show the samples. Like here, that is what I created this morning. I have run some PG bench mess just to have some workload, so I can have an actual report, which I can show you in a minute. And then you can easily create also, where is it here? My sample, create sample, pop, another one, pop, pop, right? I can also kind of create it for all, like I mentioned. So, pop. So, no, when you do it for everything, you get even a view which cluster have now created a sample. And if you show the samples again, you will see that even more, right? So that's it. And now, if you want to just create a report, I already did one, but I will just show you again. Create a report, like paste. I do it from the external. I can easily just put it in a HTML file directly. So open just the query out of the PostgreSQL command line from the regular command line with a select get report and then the name and the from to snapshot. And then you will see here there are plenty of reports created, and I will now show you an example of this report. So that is basically, I hope it's you can see it. Let me just make it. Shut up. So I get a little bigger. So again, it's not as nice as an AWR, but at least you get the point, right? It's some details about the cluster, the Postgres version and the operating system and so on, the timing, then some information about database statistics, the I/O statistics I just went through because beer, and so you see session statistics, the statement statistics, and cluster statistics, a lot of statistics, right? I'm sounding like Trump, right? A lot of statistics, right? So, yeah. And then very important, the wall which was generated, table space stuff. And now, the most important part for every Oracle DBA, at least what I did in the past was when I get a AWR report, first the top 10, top 5 wait events, and in, let's say, 60% of my cases, I was pretty much done with what I have to do right now, right? So that, again, here the top wait events per statement and the wait events all overall, right? If you want to get rid of backend processes, you can look at the statements. You see data file read on CPO, right? It was on a shitty VM running, and so of course the storage load is pretty intense here, right? So it's really slow, but you get the point, right? And then again, you get mostly similar to AWR. You get plenty of top lists of the SQL statements per execution time, per mean execution time, by executions, right? By blocks fetched, and always you can just jump on the actual statement, right? So you see, like here, see it's just PG bench stuff. So the statements are also written here. So a lot of information, and at the end some statistics about the schemas and so on. What was the load of the separate schemas and objects, and somewhere at the end there is also here you see the parameters, right? So all parameters in the table, and that is the actual setting in this particular time frame. That is important to know, right? So it's not like the last settings. So if you look in the past, you exactly see that was the situation then. So it's pretty useful. And then the same for that is wrong. That is the wrong. This differential report. it's the same content, but you see everything is written underneath. So it's it's of course the same cluster, but then you get the 2 time frames, and then you see everything being in comparison. So then you can just investigate about the before today noon and yesterday noon. You can see, okay, what was actually going on both sides. Or is the customer telling me something wrong and so on? And then you can just see everything beside. Okay. Going back to the slides. So that is, yeah, sure.
The rows and calls and stuff like that. Is this since the last reset, or is this since the time a sample was taken?
It is from the you are selecting 2 sample points, so it's from 2. So if you're having, let's say, 5 snapshots for every hour, and you choose 3 to 4 or 3 to 5, and then it's in between this. Yeah, exactly. You can easily check. It's a shitty slide, right? But there's a schema in this profile. There are objects and tables in this profile you can easy query in. It's not like you don't understand what's going on. So, like I said in the beginning, I often just have created some statements, just digging in this views and tables. I don't need to create an actual report. So if you know the actual timing, the timestamps, you can just create some nice little queries to just get the data out of this. So especially this is useful. The report is a nice addition. Okay, yeah. I had a few minutes later. Yeah. Please, yeah. So, yeah, and the beer, of course. So, okay, you get some retention settings, of course. You can start giving some maintenance about deleting all snapshots, of course. That is obvious, I guess. And even the size, you can just check how big the repository will get. In my experience, if you're not creating crazy like I'm collecting data for the last 5 years and doing snapshots every minute, then you will be fine, right? So, but still, I would recommend not to implement this repository database in the production. I would just create some little Postgres instance somewhere else just for collecting data. That's more easy, right? And yeah, that is the conclusion. I was really fast. Okay. Extensibility is an advantage of Postgres. Of course, there are challenges with support, who is supporting which extension, but at least the major Postgres vendor are supporting a pretty large bunch of extensions, even with CodeFix. Then that one is really, you have seen, it's not complicated to implement. So it's really straightforward, it's easy, and it will fit a lot of needs. Of course, it's not the same like AWR from the content and the complexity and everything. But to be honest, I would say over 90% of your problems will be solved with this. And, again, crying DBAs in my training course after this, right? So it was really, it's a helpful thing for Oracle DBAs need to care about Postgres right now and having a comfort zone, what I mentioned before, right? And yeah, that is what's missing, of course, again, I would have everything in core, of course, but it's mindset again, right? On proper job handling in this extension would be nice, so that at least this quant fiddling is away. That was what would be one of my first wishes, so that I have everything in one place.
It's open source. Write it.
Yeah, of course. And I have no time to go to this nice little conference anymore. So, and yeah, and of course it's still evolving, this extension. Even the rate event part is just 2 years old. So there's always improvement, getting more information in the reports. That is pretty nice. And yeah, that was my question slide. I need to put this in it to make some advertising for you, right? And even then, I'm done, I guess. Questions can go with a beer. So, okay, thanks.